Now, AI and automation are obviously very hot button topics these days. Everyone and his cousin is talking about the topic, but I've never seen the topic discussed within a certain context and with the possibility of certain consequences. And that is my hypothesis right now, working hypothesis, that long term AI and automation might permanently put the beta bucks model of marriage and reproduction out of business. Yes, you heard me correctly. I believe, potentially at least, that AI and automation can put the beta bucks model out of business permanently. Now, we've already seen a lot of damage done to the beta bucks model due to the internet and the proliferation of what the internet does, which is it enhances the value of lookism because of dating sites, and it's the way that works. As all of you probably know, the nitty-gritty of it is when you don't have time to actually meet a person in real life, what do you do as a primitive ape, the ape that we are? You look primarily at the looks, and that's it. And this has been well demonstrated in various experiments, such as speed dating in the early 2000s and much later in abundance in places like Tinder and what have you. And so lookism is kind of supreme these days because of the internet. Now, that sounds bad enough. And if it weren't bad enough, I'm telling you there's some real potential for complete upheaval of the beta bucks model. Maybe not in all parts of the world, but certainly in the West. Now, how will this work? Because right now, in theory, if you are a good enough provider, if you're reliable, if you have a job that pays well, and above all, if you have a job that has status, you might still acquire a wife. Now, she may not like you very much. She may only tolerate you because of your utility, right? And there are various hypotheses and ideas floating around within the context of evolutionary psychology, for example, that even postulate that back in the day, women were just settling because they just didn't have any better options. And this is something I've said as well. And a lot of people think this, and I think it's very plausible. So that model is already dwindling. It's not really a thing as much as it used to be. But the power of AI and automation comes into play here. What happens? Well, who are the people, the men specifically, who can still acquire, say, trophy wives, and still acquire women solely based on status and money? These are men, typically, who are at jobs that earn a lot of money, jobs that, in addition to earning a lot of money, also provide a lot of status, like a corporate lawyer, or certain types of specialties within the medical profession, i.e. certain types of doctors, such as a neurologist or a radiologist, these sorts of things. These are high-status jobs. They're quite lucrative, on average. And with these jobs, a lot of men are still able to procure work for the purposes of reproduction and partnering up with women. What happens, though, I pose to you gentlemen, when a lot of these prestigious, high-status, high-paying jobs are replaced by automation and AI? Now, lest you think this is just pie in the sky, lest you just think this is just whatever, this isn't a whatever situation, we have hard evidence for this, at least partially. For example, they've run experiments comparing the work of AI with the best of American corporate lawyers in terms of efficiency, in terms of, above all, of speed, in terms of output, and perhaps most importantly, in terms of quality. And lo and behold, perhaps surprising to some people, but unsurprising to a lot of people, the AI outperformed the human lawyers in every respect, and most importantly, the quality was better, and even more importantly in this case, it did it in almost an instant. And the fact of the matter is, when you look at a job like that, who are you going to pay long term? Are you going to pay an AI? Well, the AI doesn't need to be paid. The AI doesn't need to take coffee breaks. The AI doesn't need to take lunch breaks. The AI doesn't have relationship stress or problems in the family. The AI just does what you tell it to do. And this is but a glimpse of a potential in the future. Because here's the thing. If prestigious corporate jobs, and even medical jobs, for example, I've already mentioned radiology and neurology, well, those are branches of medicine that require a keen eye, a lot of intelligence, analysis, and again, there are instances of AI looking at and analyzing MRIs, X-rays, this sort of thing, and wholly outperforming the humans who normally would do it. Now, will this affect every sector equally? Obviously not, but there are a lot of prestigious, well-paying jobs out there that rely on analysis, that rely on certain passive skills that an AI, frankly speaking, is much better equipped to take care of than any human out there. And if this happens sufficiently and in sufficient numbers, percentage-wise, there are going to be some real problems. Why? Because these types of prestigious jobs, long-term, right? Well-paying, prestigious jobs, corporate law, certain types of doctor jobs, architecture and engineering, yet more fields that would be affected by this. These jobs tend to pay relatively well, some of them much more so than others, and they do confer a certain status upon you. What happens when no one wants to employ you anymore because they can press a button and give some input commands into an AI, and the AI can do your job 100 times better than you, and more importantly, 1,000 times faster? You're no longer going to have access to these highly prestigious jobs, right? And these highly well-paying jobs. What happens, of course, as a consequence of that, is that the beta bucks model of basically funding your relationship and or marriage and or reproduction vis-a-vis the money you earn and the status that coincides with that money, that model will be reduced, if not outright destroyed completely, by a potentiality like this. So it might exist in some corners of the world, but in the West, as automation AI take over a lot of these prestigious jobs that people thought only humans could do for the longest period of time, the natural consequence of that is that the men who do these jobs will be out of work. And even if these men decided to, I don't know, work on a construction site, which is very unlikely, given the fact that most of these men are highly educated, white-collar workers that have fancy university degrees, are probably not going to end up working in a construction site or sweeping streets. And even if they did, those jobs do not pay very well, and on top of that, they're very low status. Those men are going to be screwed in terms of reproductive opportunities, because they can no longer attract, if you want to use that term, because attract isn't really the term here. It's more about offering a package deal, so to speak. They can no longer offer this deal to women, and as a consequence, they're going to be just as screwed as already a huge, huge, huge proportion of men are at this current moment in time. Now, what will be, in addition to this, the natural consequence? Well, very few men will be able to beta bucks it anymore. There will be some exceptions for a while, but assuming these prestigious, high-paying jobs are replaced by AI, which is a distinct possibility given their efficiency, and above all, the quality, and most importantly, the speed at which they perform. These AIs can perform tasks in minutes that would require humans days in some cases, say in the case of certain lawyers that I mentioned. What will happen? The men are put out of work, and they're going to be left to flounder, like most of the men these days. The natural consequence of this is a double whammy, because we already live in the current situation of lookism reigning supreme due to the internet, due to the fast-paced nature of dating sites and similar phenomena. Well, lookism is going to get an even greater amp up in light of the destruction of beta bucksing vis-a-vis automation and AI. I mean, women already basically earn their own money for the most part. They don't, quote-unquote, need men in a monetary sense in many cases. But of course, they're still desirous of status. They're attracted to status. That's the nature of hypergamy. What are they going to do? Well, we've already seen what's happened. In lieu of a mixture of beta bucksing and compromise for looks, the scale has tipped in favor of lookism over the past 10 years especially, but more gradually over the past 20 years. It will basically bring the scale down all the way to the side of lookism, potentially, if this comes to pass. Because men no longer offer prestigious jobs, they no longer offer the money that's associated with those prestigious jobs. The women already earn their money, and so what's left for women to choose? Almost exclusively based on looks, with a mixture and a dash of personality here and there. Because the other stuff they might be attracted to, status and money, but if they can't get that, we already know what happens in terms of mate pursuit and acquisition. They assign even more value to looks than they already do. And this is not some far on the horizon disaster just waiting to happen at some point in time in the future. This could happen easily in the next 10 to 20 years. We're going to have to see, obviously. But imagine the combination of the fast-paced nature of online dating, the impossibility to find partners, because if you're an average-looking guy, well, good luck to you. And then on top of that, if you're smart and educated, being a doctor or a lawyer won't do any good for you because the AI does a better job. And so what will women go for? Attractiveness, attractiveness, attractiveness. Now there's a final element here, and that is the already very much oversaturated market of geomaxing, something I've talked about on a number of occasions on this channel. Can you imagine how oversaturated geomaxing will be, say, 10 years from now? And on top of that, just how bad it will be for those guys who could not get the nice women because their beta bucks model failed due to AI and automation, and we have this super oversaturated overseas market in terms of geomaxing. There might be nothing left for the vast majority of men. Only the most attractive men out there potentially will be able to get anything, be it partners, be it hookups, you name it. It's already very much leaning in that direction. It's not quite there, as I regularly see normies in the streets who are partnered up, looks max, assortative mating, that sort of thing. But in the next 10 to 20 years, how is that going to change? Massively, if my hypothesis comes true. The other stuff's going to happen regardless. Geomaxing is already oversaturated for the most part, and it's pretty much only good for hookups. It's not really good for long-term partnerships. I've talked about that in detail in previous videos. If you're just looking to hook up, I guess it can work out fine. But if you want a marriage, if you want children, the geomaxing model is hardly the promise of salvation. So we are definitely heading into undiscovered territory here, gentlemen, if you think about the long-term side effects of this, because historically we've never seen this before. Historically and prehistorically, mating and dating for women has always been about some kind of compromise, a combination of compromise, if you will, between beta bucksing, provision, and looks. And now it's moving towards looks ever more quickly. If this comes to pass, it might be entirely based on looks, with a smattering of personality here and there. But in any event, as always, thank you for tuning in. Many special thanks to my patrons on Patreon. You guys are the best. This channel could not exist without you. Thank you so much. You have my everlasting gratitude. And if you can hit the bell icon to be informed of my videos, so you get notifications, we much appreciate it as well. And the usual YouTube jazz of liking the video, commenting, subbing, sharing the video. I would appreciate that too. If I'm still alive, I'll check out next time. Until then, may the gods truly watch over you. Goodbye for now.
If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.